Hello and welcome back to another popcorn chat. I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I'm going to speak to you about Ali Abassi's latest film, The Apprentice. Some of you may know Ali Abassi's previous work, including Border or Holy Spider, so I was curious to see what he was going to do with this very much American story about someone who is currently in the political race to become president once again. I was pleasantly surprised by the almost documentary/mockumentary style of shooting with this film. It felt very much like things such as Succession. Obviously, Jeremy Strong is in that, but I think, the sort of walking around, crash zooms, I liked it, and I think it really kind of separated it from a very sort of typical biographical film. The performances from our main two actors were brilliant. I think Sebastian Stan did a great job at playing Donald Trump. He could have very much easily done the voice and try and, do an SNL impression that you would see, but he doesn't. He very much more embodies the physicality of Donald Trump, the hair, the kind of tics in his sort of mouth and gestures, they were all there, and I think made for much more of a, interesting and engaging viewing, whereas if that was an impression for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I don't think I would have liked it as much. Then we have Jeremy Strong playing Roy Cohn, and I think he did a great job. I didn't even know who the character was going into this film. Nonetheless, he was able to make me feel so much within the course of that. In the first half, I sort of despised this sort of criminal lawyer and sort of the corruption that he was sort of instigating across New York. And then in the latter half of the film, I felt pretty much sorry for him, and it's really interesting how a performance can do that. And I think, if you've seen him in Succession, he's a great actor, and I think he does it once again. And I think in a lot of those scenes he does steal the light from Sebastian Stan, and I think he does a great job in allowing us to feel empathy for a really bad man. The film follows Donald Trump through his sort of progression as a businessman and therefore through the decades, and the sort of filmic quality of it and the kind of grain. And then you come into the 80s and we have that kind of VHS sort of tape lines across it, and we have the music which really establishes where we are in time, and I think was a great kind of indicator without having to flash a bit of text on, which a lot of films do. I think the use of sound and the change within the film format really helped to sort of set the tone of where we were within his story. I knew that Donald Trump was a businessman before he became the president of America, which is still crazy to say, but that did happen. So I knew that, but I don't think a lot of people will necessarily going into this. So it could be quite interesting for some people, but otherwise it's just kind of reiterating what we already know about him, really. But I think there's some interesting moments between his relationship with Roy Cohn and how he shifts from being this kind of apprentice with him and sort of leading his own kind of empire, really. So I think there's really great dynamics from the film. I think it's going to sort of inform a lot of people about characters they didn't know, things that happened in his life, but obviously take it with a pinch of salt, because obviously it's very much dramatized for that. But I loved the kind of observational documentary style of this, and I think it really worked. There were some scenes in the latter half of the film, as Donald Trump is very much power hungry, that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I think they're so kind of jarring to what we've seen so far in the film. There's some scenes with Ivana and some other women in there, which obviously have, come to light in terms of his kind of presidential sort of campaign. And I think that's really sort of the moments that made me feel really sort of gross, and I was like, oh, that's really uncomfortable to watch. But unfortunately these things have happened. Not to mention we do get some kind of body horror elements within this. There's kind of Donald Trump manipulating his body. He's asking for a sort of fixing of his hairline, as well as reducing sort of his belly as well. So yeah, those bits were quite kind of graphic. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. In some moments it sort of does take you out, but generally it's kind of a satire, mockumentary style film that sort of depicts these unlikable characters and gives some empathy towards some of them, not to others. Yeah, it's a fine balance, and I can see why some people are, a bit hesitant to show it maybe in kind of depiction, but I quite liked it. I think there's a lot to sort of enjoy, and I was entertained for 2 hours, so I can't deny that. Go and check out Ali Abassi's The Apprentice. It's definitely worth watching. Make your own opinions. Come back to this video and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching the review, and I'll see you guys in another popcorn chat.